Welcome back. My name is Haruna Fukaya. I am a Rotary Peace Fellow from Japan. I'm sponsored by Rotary International District 2590. For a long time, I unconsciously viewed people experiencing hardship as someone different from myself. Experiencing my own fear and vulnerability taught me how easily we focus on differences, but true peace building lies in recognizing our shared vulnerability and humanity. Today, I want to talk about my journey of transforming my perspective through this program and invite you to rethink peace building and peace building work together with me. So when I started this program in the summer of 2023, I was a new mother with this 6-month-old baby boy, still breastfeeding. This is my son. He's beautiful. I was filled with excitement of the academic and professional journey awaiting me, but at the same time, I was terrified. I was in a foreign situation, not familiar with the system, the culture, and the language. And on top of that, I was responsible for this tiny human being. Even simple tasks like grocery shopping, filling out forms felt overwhelming. Becoming a new mother in a foreign country made me confront my own limits and loss of control. For the first time, I felt vulnerable. I grew up in a relatively stable environment, free from direct threat of insecurity and instability. I now recognize that it was a privilege that my birthplace and background shaped. Also, I grew up in a relatively homogeneous community. I had a limited understanding of multiculturalism and its nuances. It wasn't until I stepped outside of this environment that I began to see how much I had taken for granted and how much I needed to learn. The perspective began to shift when I was 15 and joined the Rotary Youth Exchange Program, which took me to Finland for a year. Living with host families and meeting new friends from around the world, I immersed myself in a diverse culture. More importantly, I witnessed the discrimination and exclusion faced by immigrants and refugees. What struck me the most was the stark contrast in attitudes. I was also a foreigner residing in Finland, but an attitude directed at me was completely different from that toward immigrants and refugees. This experience made me question how we label individuals and how factors such as legal status, socioeconomic background, and societal perceptions influence a person's access to dignity, opportunity, and sense of belonging. This realization motivated me to pursue a career in international development, where I could advocate for marginalized communities and contribute to building safer and more inclusive societies. So for nearly a decade, I worked at Japanese governmental agency for foreign aid, driven by the belief that Japan's unique development journey could offer meaningful insights to countries and communities facing similar development challenges. I was passionate and committed. And this commitment came with personal sacrifice too. I missed countless important life events, such as my best friend's weddings and even my grandparents' funerals, because I was working far away from home. However, over time, I began to question a system that prioritized measurable outcomes and solutions over genuine human impact. Local communities were often categorized as beneficiaries or affected populations. They were frequently stripped of agency, rather than being engaged as equal partners with valuable insights. Ironically, I entered this field of international development to challenge the very labels that divided us. I was motivated by the discomfort of being treated differently from immigrants, even I was also a foreigner residing in Finland. However, unintentionally, I became a part of the system that perpetuated the same patterns driven by donor priorities and often unaware of local voices. This fellowship gave me a space for deep reflection and unlearning. In the beginning, I felt shame. It was unsettling to confront how much I had contributed to power imbalances, which was shaped by the privilege I carry as someone from Global North and as an aid worker. What I realized was that even with good intentions, my work often overlooked the voices, knowledge, and the agency of the communities that I hope to support. By focusing on providing solutions, I missed the opportunity to truly listen, co-create with those who understand their lives the most. One pivotal moment came during my applied field experience. I interned with the International Organization for Migration based in Morocco. What I observed was that despite numerous commitments and policies to support migrants, there are significant gaps between policymaking and implementation. Additionally, some efforts struggle to adequately address the actual needs of the impacted people. I was especially moved by the challenges faced by migrant mothers in irregular situations, especially during childbirth. Fear of discrimination, fear of deportation often deters migrant women from seeking public health care and services. This leaves them without adequate physical and emotional support during this critical period of pregnancy and childbirth. Furthermore, the absence of legal and administrative support creates significant barriers to establishing their children's civil status, beginning with birth registration. For many families without documentation, the process is just complex and inaccessible. Without proper birth registration, their children risk statelessness. This exclusion may hinder their children's access to fundamental rights to nationality, legal protection, access to healthcare, education, and future employment. Learning about these mothers' experiences triggered deep personal reflection. Vulnerability is often shaped by the systems and circumstances that surround us. Policy and structures can exacerbate or even create vulnerabilities, trapping people in cycles of disadvantage. And I recalled my journey, my personal journey as a new mother in a foreign country. Despite holding legal status and having tremendous support from this program and its community, I still found everyday life overwhelming. Then I asked myself, what if I don't have the protections? What if I were undocumented in a precarious situation? How would I navigate? Who would help me? And how would I protect my child? It was when my personal experience of vulnerability began to evolve in an understanding of shared vulnerability, a space where empathy can grow. While our circumstances are different, but the emotions are deeply connected. The desire to keep our children safe is something universal regardless of legal status, nationality, or migratory path. It is a shared human experience that connects us all. It is easy to focus what makes us different, to sort people into categories, even without meaning to. But when we do that, we risk creating distance between each other. What really matters is recognizing what we share as human beings and using that understanding to cultivate empathy. Empathy is not simply about feeling others from a distance. It is recognizing that someone else's reality could have been mine. It's about seeing through the lens of our own lives. When we begin transforming our mindsets, moving away from seeing others as different, we can recognize our shared vulnerabilities and the connection that unites us, rather than the labels that divide us. The Rotary Peace Fellowship has been more than just gaining knowledge and skills. It taught me how to relate to the world, and more importantly, how to relate to myself. And I cannot change the fact that I come from a privileged background, someone from Global North, but I can choose to listen, to amplify the voices, and help create spaces that are more inclusive and equitable. And I am responsible for how I use this position. This is not an easy process. It wasn't something I learned in a classroom or I was trained for within my organization. And it came with this discomfort of challenging my biases. True peace building begins with this internal transformation, the willingness to question our assumptions, embrace discomfort, recognize shared humanity, and practice empathy. Thank you.